Hi, everybody. Vitaly here from Quantum Leaders. I'm here with Norman Wolf, my business partner and the author of The Living Organization. And the purpose of today's session is to briefly outline our new execution performance assessment, to run you through what it does and what kind of numerics it puts out and what do those numbers really mean. So, Norman, welcome.
Thank you, Vitaly. It's nice to be here as always with you. Why don't you go ahead and bring up that little PowerPoint and we can walk people through the assessment, how it was designed, how it fits into the ARC framework, and what they can expect to get from it. Okay, so the ARC framework was designed recognizing that there are 4 major domains that every organization, every leader worries about. First of all, obviously, there are the people of the organization. And the people is where all of the fundamental energy of the organization comes from. When we apply the ARC model to it, i.e. activity, relationship, and context, you can see, roughly speaking, how it relates to the people. The technical skills would be their activity maturity, their interpersonal skills, how they relate to each other, how they communicate, how they interface, would relate to the relationship field of the ARC framework. And of course, their sense of purpose, the sense of meaning, the sense of identity, who they are, how they identify themselves, what's important to them, their core beliefs would relate to their context. And the same thing is true for the other 3 fields. You got your business processes, your business model. This is all around the organization as a collective. And we apply the same kind of things. The technical aspects or the activity typically runs around workflow and metrics and things of that nature, how the organization as a whole gets things done. The relationship is usually centered around issues of the design of the organization, how the different functions relate to each other. Is it purely hierarchical or highly collaborative? What kind of information flow runs back and forth between the two? And of course, at the context level, you have the core belief systems, how we do things around here, what's often called the culture, but it goes really beneath the culture. The context actually defines the culture of the organization. And of course, you've got this whole domain of leadership, which at the activity level, leaders are typically worried about what we traditionally call management, supervisory work, overseeing things. At the relationship level, we'll talk about building teams or community and levels of collaboration and facilitating communication, resolving conflicts, those kinds of issues. And of course, the deeper level, the context level of the leaders is their ability to really inspire, motivate, to give the organization a clear sense of purpose. The 4th column, customers and suppliers, that's really the results column, right? That's the outside world. That's what we're trying to influence or work with. That's the market we're in. And the important thing to recognize that at the end of the day, the activity field on the customers and supplier domain is really where we talk about needs and solution. That translates into revenue and expenses. So we're really shooting to the upper right to maximize that. And so this is the basics of the ARC framework. If you go to the next slide, we developed an assessment tool based on this, this framework. Basically, we developed 24 questions, 2 per category. That gives us an indication, very simple questions, very easy to answer, at least we believe so. That will give us an indication of where they're strong and weak across this framework. Now, if you go to the next slide, you'll see that the assessment is based on 2 very important principles. One is that the energy flowing in an organization flows from the bottom left, i.e. the sense of inspiration, the sense of purpose, the sense of identity of us as a collective, what we're here to do, and the impact we make. That's at the deepest context level, and it drives everything else. So you think about this as a flow of energy rippling out of the bottom left up to the top right, which is needs and solutions, which is revenue and expenses, i.e. the profit of the organization. That's the way the energy flow. But when we want to diagnose an organization, when we want to assess it, we actually work the other way around. We work from the top right down towards the bottom left. The reason we do this is because we don't really want to spend time and money on issues that are really not pertinent to the organization today. So for example, let's say the problem is really a activity field, business process issue. Well, we don't want to spend a lot of time and money building new stories about who we are if what's really needed today is a simple business redesign, a process redesign. Also, we might find out through the assessment, like in this example of one client that we did it with, they were having problems clearly with the performance, with revenue performance. They weren't meeting the targets. But when we assessed it, we saw that their relationship in the industry was strong. They understood the dynamics. They were really okay in a number of the relationship issues, but they had two key areas, one in the process, one in the people at the activity level. But interestingly enough, those two were caused by the weakness in the leadership at the context level and the people at the context level. They didn't have the maturity to execute what they needed, and the leadership wasn't really providing it. So when we diagnosed it, we were able to identify which area of focus we should work on. A little bit on the process to get things going right now to show short-term results, but building in the development of the people in terms of their maturity, their sense of identity, their sense of value, as well as the leadership's ability to manage the context. So here's where the ARC assessment can really come into play. The important thing is it allows us to focus on what's important today, as well as what you need to do to build for the long term.
Thank you, Norman. I think that's great. And if you want to know the actual questions, I will send you the actual presentation, so you'll be able to read the questions, the exact questions that we are asking. Thank you so much, Norman.
You're welcome, Vitaly. It was nice having the opportunity to explain it.
Absolutely. Oh, one last thing I forgot. You do produce a report, right? Yes.
So the assessment is a simple online assessment. Okay. We can set it up for you. If you have under 25 employees, it's $500. And over 25, it's $25 a person. And you know, we can be a little flexible with those numbers. And also what happens is we set up a survey specific for you. Your people fill it out. We collect the data. It's all kept confidential. We then analyze the data through our software and produce a simple report. One of the items you'll see in the report is that chart that we showed you, but we'll also give you some other information about distribution of the results. Did you have it focused in one area or another? If you're a bigger organization, we can do it on a department basis if you need to, or if it's bigger yet, we can do it on a business unit basis. We can set it up pretty much any way, you know, that works for your particular organization.
What about keeping it private and confidential?
It's all confidential. That's part of the agreements. It's actually in the survey form itself says that everything that you give is confidential and no one else sees it but us.
Do the people have to put their names on the?
No, it's completely anonymous at this point. Like I said, if we wanted to collect some demographic situations, we can set it up so they can report what department they're in. But that's customized as needed for the organization. Also, we provide a simple report, but we actually go through the report with the client so we can help them understand how best to utilize the data should they want to.
Tell me, okay, I know, I'm coming up with this question is, so you're like a survey company, like, is this a survey company or
No,
what?
actually, Quantum Leaders is not a survey company. It's actually a company focused on helping organizations execute their strategies much more effectively. What we realized is that everybody wants to know kind of where am I now? Whenever we do a strategic offsite or anything like that, people always, actually, if you do any sort of problem analysis, you have to have a baseline. Where am I now? Where do I want to go? And how do I go from A to B, right? That's basic, simple formula. Well, this gives people a sense of where they are now, but it does it in a way that's different and unique than any other SWOT analysis or any sort form of assessment. It looks at it from how well can the organization execute? What are the driving forces that allows them to either successfully execute or what might be getting in the way of execution? And that's what this assessment was really designed for. In fact, all of the work of Quantum Leaders is designed around helping organizations improve their ability to execute.
I'm on the roll, so I'm going to ask you another question. Okay, there are culture surveys, there are performance surveys, there are executions, like more operational surveys, and then so that which already exists, and then there is, I know a lot of people are looking into this thing called teal organizations and self-managed organizations. Where does this survey, where does this assessment sit within all that?
I'd almost like to answer it by saying all those other surveys sit within this one. And what I mean by that is to look at cultural surveys, right? They're going to look at one box on this survey. They're going to look at the context field on the business process in the ARC framework. Leadership surveys are going to look at leadership capabilities. Operational surveys are going to look at activity on the business process activity field,
Business
right?
engineering, business
And so all those other surveys are really deeper dives into the organization. The problem is, as a CEO, what I want to know is which one should I select? Which one should I do a deeper dive in? And do I really need to do a deep dive? As a CEO, my concern, number one concern is I've got to help my organization grow, thrive, and perform, right? That I'm at the higher level. All these other surveys that you mentioned are really at the lower level. And I don't know where my organization is, perhaps, or I'd like to get a better understanding. I might think I know, but I'd like to hear what the people think and get clarity. So this survey is actually designed, and that's why we call it an execution performance assessment. It's really designed for thinking about the organization from the level of the CEO.
Makes sense. Thank you so much. I think I've exhausted all the questions.
You sure? It's always a pleasure, Vitaly.
Okay, thanks. Bye-bye.